Now, amid uncertainties over the fate of Brexit, Wion World is One takes a look at the Dover port, which is the United Kingdom's main artery for European trade. The port handles £119 billion worth of trade, or 17% of the country's commerce in goods. The amount of trade handled by the port makes it a potential Brexit pressure point. A no-deal divorce could completely disrupt the trade between Britain, which is the world's fifth largest economy, and the European Union, the world's biggest trading bloc. A no-deal could choke off almost $1.8 billion of goods of trade in a week. So is the port of Dover ready to handle the consequences of a no-deal Brexit? According to port authorities, the port of Dover is fully ready for Brexit. Listen in.
What we are saying by being fully ready, we're not guaranteeing that there's going to be no disruption or no congestion, because clearly under a no-deal Brexit there would be. But what we are saying is that we're ready to handle that. One of the challenges that we have is that we don't yet know what the rules of the game are going to be, whether it's a no-deal Brexit or a deal Brexit. And if it's a deal Brexit, is it a customs unit? Is it a trade agreement? Is it a Canada? Is it a Norway? We don't know this yet. As soon as the industry, the sector, logistics knows what those are, they'll adapt very, very quickly. But we need to know that.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Boris Johnson is currently under pressure to get a fresh agreement by Thursday's European Union summit. The EU and the UK's officials have now resumed talks in the hopes of reaching a deal that can be agreed by leaders at a key summit. Now, while the Brexit chaos continues, Wion World is One's London Bureau Chief Mandy Clark analyses what a no-deal Brexit could do to UK's busiest port.
The Dover Port Authority says it's as ready as it can be for Brexit, but that doesn't mean not to expect disruption. Around 17% of trade passes through the port. That's around $150 billion worth of goods. Now, they said even a 2-minute delay on a lorry could lead to a 17-mile queue, in effectively turning southern England and northern France into parking lots. Now, delays at the port will damage the economy of both countries, but the Port Authority says they simply don't know what deals are being negotiated, so it's very difficult to anticipate what disruption can be expected. Now, it's very unclear what deal will be negotiated and whether they can agree on a deal by the end of the month. So the Port Authority, like the rest of Britain, will have to wait and see if a deal can be done. Mandy Clark, Wion, World is One, London.
Keeping it with the UK, a few weeks back, the Indian High Commission in London witnessed violent and ugly protests. Sponsored pro-Pakistani groups were behind those protests. We reported the story. We even questioned the Mayor of London and why no action was being taken. His justification was this: people have a right to protest. It seems this right does not hold when the protest is directed against the British government and their unprecedented protests. For the past 2 weeks, London has witnessed a series of demonstrations. One of London's most famous tourist spots, the Trafalgar Square, turned into a protest site, just like the Jantar Mantar in India's capital, New Delhi. Guess what the police did? They banned those protesters altogether. Earlier this year, the Indian High Commission witnessed these ugly scenes. Pro-Pakistani protesters launched violent protests on 2 occasions. Windows were smashed, walls were damaged, but the British authorities stood by the protesters. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, claimed that it was a small minority that was behind the violence. In a statement to Wion on the 5th of September, a spokesperson for the Mayor of London said that Sadiq Khan supports the right to peaceful and lawful protests. But after a major campaign against climate change broke out in London 2 weeks ago, the British lawmakers are now following a different rule book. Campaigners from Extinction Rebellion, an environmental pressure group, will now be stopped from protesting. In the last 14 days, the City of London has witnessed an unprecedented campaign. Activists glued themselves to buildings of major companies. This includes the offices of the British public broadcaster, BBC. The activists even projected climate activist Greta Thunberg's speech on the building of the British Parliament. The police suspended the protests with a heavy hand.
Give Keys a chance!
We're anti-rebellion. Anti-rebellion.
The Extinction Rebellion campaign is an attempt to mount pressure on the British government to do more to protect the planet. To make their voices heard, the activists occupied the Trafalgar Square. They glued themselves to the ground. Some even planted a tent. Unable to control the protests, the London police forced the protesters to leave. More than 1,400 protesters were arrested. The police had ordered the activists to end their campaign or risk arrest. Essentially denying the very right to protest that became the basis to defend violence outside the Indian High Commission. But the protesters have vowed to soldier on. Extinction Rebellion has declared that it will defy the police order and keep its campaign going. Bureau Report, Wion, World is One.